for the new CQ phones and the CQ phone provisioning tool. Previously, for those of you that have used the CQ phones, the provisioning tool was kind of outside of the Nimbus voice and separate from it. And one of the issues that we ran into was that when changes came out with the provisioning tool, it was very difficult to then send those changes to existing servers, existing Nimbus. So making it a module now, bringing it inside the system, now when you have upgrades and updates, we're going to be able to send that to the provisioning tool, which can then, obviously make your life easier as, things come up and new features and bugs are fixed and everything. So I think there's just going to be some huge benefits to the new provisioning tool and the new CQ phones. I'm not going to go into all of the benefits of the new CQ phones, but there's quite a few. Bluetooth on the high end, Wi-Fi, they're all wall mountable, an easier to use sidecar. So these are what we would refer to in the store as the 50 series. So you'll have the CQ650, the 450, and the 250 along with the sidecar. You can still use EH&S devices that we offer. So just a lot of nice features, I think, but this module is going to focus on how do you provision them. And certainly this will change as it goes on as new features are added to the provisioning tool. So let's hop into it right now. So I have a new phone on the network. And for the new phones, the easiest way to find the IP, just press the check mark in the center of the phone twice, and it'll give you the IP of the phone. So for this one, as you can see, that the layout's a little bit different, but this one's at 192.168.1.149. So as I said, just press the check mark on the phone a couple of times, and you'll get to the IPv4 address. And log into that as admin, so you can just kind of open that up. So there's the phone. As you can see, I have not done anything for a bit, so I logged myself out. So nothing's here. Account, passwords blank, profile. Just the layout's a little bit different. We'll kind of go through it. The profile basically just has what's the public IP or local IP of your phone system, what's the IP of your Nimbus, and then account is referring to extension number and password there. So let's leave this alone for now and go back to the Nimbus. So the first thing you're going to ask is, where is this provisioning tool? And this can actually be added to older Nimbus version 14s. So if you don't have it and now you're starting to maybe replace some of your phones with the new CQ50 series, we can upload that for you. So you're going to find that under the Settings, CQ Devices. So you click on that, and you're going to be greeted with this screen right here. On the far right is kind of your expandable menu bar. And it's the same idea as the other provisioning tool, and even the same idea as Endpoint Manager. You've got a general template, you've got a template specific, and then you kind of combine the two of those to match up with an extension. So I'll always start at the top, work my way down. So I'll first start with these are what I would consider my global settings. So you're going to give it a name. Let's just call this CQ test. You can change your admin username and password. So in this case, if it takes, our new password instead of admin is going to be admin 920383. I'm going to change that to 48640, so that's easier for me to remember. You can turn on and off resyncing. The other thing you're going to notice is just the huge number of changes and settings that you now can do on the phones. Whereas before it was very general, the phones obviously would provision and they would work, but people were always wanting more in terms of variables that you could change. So down here you've got the IP of your phone system. This is going to automatically fill in for you. Now this is a public IP. I'm working on a hosted system right now. If it's a local IP, you would grab the local IP. And these do provision over port 84. You'll see why that's important in a little bit. But you can kind of work your way across. I'm not going to go through every single one. If you click on phone settings, all right, look at all of these things that you can now change for your phones. Transfer mode blind, enable your headset, all sorts of things, call waiting, missed call. You can go to regional settings. You don't have to save it after each one. Regional settings, this is where you're going to set your time zone. So I'll set this to Detroit. You can turn on 12-hour, 24-hour daylight savings time. If you want to put Wi-Fi phones on, you now can put in your Wi-Fi, turn it on, put in the password and the SSID, and it's going to put that in every single phone for you. So now you don't have to go to every phone and put in your Wi-Fi. Directory for multicast paging. I mean, all sorts of changes here. So I'm just going to go ahead and submit this. Okay, so template saved successfully, and you can make multiple templates. In the previous, you could only make one global, right? Now, if you want to make a new global, just add another template here. So maybe you want some Wi-Fi, some not Wi-Fi, right? So if you think about this, if you take and you attach a global template to a Wi-Fi phone, but that you do manually, but your template is turned off, it's going to turn off your manual stuff. So just things to think about as you're doing it, but you can do multiple. Now look right at the top here, right? It gives you your provisioning URL for you. You don't have to think about how do I type it in. It used to be, / CQ phone files, can I remember it? Right now, at the top of your screen, there it is. Don't include the quotes. HTTP : // IP:84. So if you ever forget, you can come back here. Now, you want to add specifically, what models. That was your global template. Now you want to do your models. So click on Add Model. Right, so what model CQ phone are you attaching? Let's just say you're going to do a 650. Right, as soon as you do 650, you can give it a name. And you can create as many of these as you want. User, you can add background images right here. Right, and it's going to go to all of the phones using this template. And then you set your line keys. You probably don't need me to walk you through how to, program this, but say you want, there's all sorts of options here. Say you want to park, right? It automatically knows what that is. You don't have to put in 70. And then if you want a BLF, multicast paging, do not disturb, follow me. So this would be, lot 71, value 71. I'll spare you the time of watching me. The 650s also have a lot more keys now, whereas the old 600s had, I believe, 20. Right? Now you've got 45 here. So definitely an increase. It's got Bluetooth built in. Right, so I'm just going to submit this. This is also the place where you can do expansion modules. So if you want to go ahead and just program, all of your keys for your expansion modules, you can do it here inside your template and not necessarily outside of your template. Okay. So now we've programmed our 650 user. You can clone it, right? So you don't have to recreate the wheel every time, right? So if you want to make a 650 admin and just change a few keys, you clone it, right? And then we could do, we're going to be able to take all the programming that was here and give it a new name, right? So we'll call it a 650 admin. Right? It took all the programming for us, but I'm going to go in here and give myself an extra admin key. My example is probably not the best example, but you get the idea. The ability to clone an existing template to use it for small changes. I have seen some people make templates for every user. It's typically not my style, but this is going to allow you to do that a lot faster. Right. So now we've got our two models. And if we click on the right-hand side here, we've got our user, we've got our admin. One thing that people did like about the EPM is the ability to make small changes, like to the base files, if you remember. You do now have that under custom config. So if I click on the custom config wheel, right, you now have basically every setting in the phone that you can change if you have to. VLANs, you name it. Settings that aren't in the template or the global. Be careful in here though, right? So these are not things you want to be playing around with. I'm going to get out of here. So we've got our global, we've got a couple models, and then you want to go to device mapping. Right? So this is where you kind of combine MAC address and phone. So click Add Mapping. So right away it knows the extensions you made. So let's just say we want to do Jim. You can choose your template. You can choose your model. And coming soon will be a network scan, where it automatically brings in IPs or actually MAC addresses for you. Until then, it's a put in a MAC address, so that's why I logged into the phone, and that's why I'm going to need to log back into the phone. So under the home, if you scroll down, you'll find the MAC address under the home, right there, MAC. Copy it, come back in here, paste it. You don't even have to get rid of anything. And I'm just going to go ahead and submit this. And what that's doing, that's going to make a file inside the Nimbus for that MAC address, for all that programming. Okay, so at this point, the idea is the same. You've made a file for the phone. Does the phone know where the file is? If you've got option 66, the router will do that for you. If you don't, you want to come back here. Remember the provision URL? You just want to copy that. And this is what you would put in your option 66 in your router. Every router kind of does their own little structure for option 66, but in every case, you put in what is your provisioning URL, and there it is. So I don't necessarily have option 66 right now on this router, and we'll pretend that you don't as well. So you come back to the phone, click on the management, click on auto provision. You see where it says config server path, paste it. Okay, you don't need to change anything else. Go down here and hit save. Okay, so now this phone is going to look at that IP for its files. And all you have to do is, you don't need to reboot it, just hit auto provision now. Okay, and at that point, you should actually be able to see the phone. It's going to pause for a second, and then if everything goes smoothly, it's going to say provision successful. And it actually, you'll see the keys change within about 5 seconds. The phone will then go through, so you'll know if it works quite quickly. And in this case, it was fine. It says provision successful. Now it says please wait. Now it's looking, is there new firmware out there? And it's going to get the rest of its files from the phone system. And that's about a minute or two process to go through that firmware upgrade and reboot. So that phone's actually fine now. It's completely provisioned, and pretty soon it's going to register. And then if you want to do more phones, obviously you'd come back to device mapping. Okay. Now this one's already set. If we want to add one, now we could choose Mary. You could choose a template, choose your model. Maybe you want to make this a user. Put in your MAC address, save it. Log into the phone, go to management, go to auto provision, paste it, and hit OK. Now, if you have option 66, the router will do that for you. You just basically have to reboot the phone, and it's going to go there. Just a few troubleshooting things in terms of issues I have seen. Every once in a blue moon for an on-premise system, I've actually never seen it for a cloud system. For an on-premise system, you'll do everything right. You'll follow, my directions, and it'll keep saying provision failed. I have seen on a couple of occasions for an on-premise system where intrusion detection just is not liking that. So what you want to do there is go to intrusion detection and just turn it off for a minute. You don't need to do it for a long time. So just hit stop. And then you can come back. If you click out of here and then go back, you'll see that it's, well, let's go out of here. We should see it stopped here. Okay, perfect, stopped. And then you can come back in here and hit auto provision again, and typically it works fine. The only other problem I've seen is if you are working on a network that has option 66 set up previously, that's basically it's going to interrupt your phone, because you're telling it one thing and the router is telling it something else, and typically the router wins there. So what you want to do there is, if you want to ignore the old router settings, if you can't get in there, if the intrusion detection doesn't work, come back in here and set override server to no. And what that's going to do is that's going to ignore your router. It's going to ignore the incorrectly programmed option 66. And then, come down in here, hit save, and then hit auto provision now, and you should see provision successful. So I'd say the other huge, this is still initializing, one of the huge benefits of this is the ability to come back in here and make changes. So now, let's just say, for example, you provision your phones. We've all been there, right? You get on site and the customer, wants to make changes. So now you can, remotely go to CQ devices. Okay. You can go to your template. Let's just say they want to change the user template. Right. Now you can go to your line keys, and let's just say, they wanted to add an extra BLF key for extension 102. Okay, you come in here, you make your change, you hit submit. Within about 1 or 2 minutes, those phones will automatically get this change. You don't have to reboot them. It's a very smooth process to send new buttons to the phones. One thing to think about is if you're working on a cloud system, and CQ will manage this for you, so it's not a huge concern, is that this is occurring on port 84. So you need to make sure your firewall, if your phones are considered remote from your Nimbus, you need to have port 84 forwarded to the Nimbus, and preferably source ported, not just a straight 84 to the entire world. So once you point 84 at the Nimbus, remote phones automatically, if you come in here and make a change, the remote phone within a minute or two will have those buttons and make that change for you. So now if we take a look at our phone, the phone is back up. It's registered. It's got all the keys. So if we log into it, so let's just test it. Let's try admin. Right? No luck. Let's try admin 48640. There we go. So now it knows the provisioning server, or the SIP server. We've got the IP, the user, we've got the password, it's registered. If we were to go to our function keys, we would see, our BLFs, we'd see our, parking keys. So, it's getting all of your programming there. And when you make a change, if we take a look at this one, if we look at our device mapping, you can go in here and check that out. So this is using the admin. So let's go to we actually didn't change the admin. I'm going to go to the admin, and I'm going to make a little change here. We'll see how long it takes for this to get to the phone. Keep in mind, this phone is remote from this cloud system right now. Okay. And if we do, say, a BLF, I think we changed the user one last time. We didn't change the admin. Okay. We're going to hit submit. We should see the system wait. It's rebuilding the files. You don't have to do rebuild configs. You don't have to do apply config. All you should see is that green bar at the top of the screen saying, files now built. I'm sorry, not files built. It's just kind of it's a green screen indicating that the module, there you go, saved successfully. Right? And by the time I turn my chair around, the phone's updated itself. All right? Keep in mind, this is a remote phone. So your ability to make changes to phones just got exponentially easier once you've deployed it. And you can do it remotely to remote phones. So it's just a huge benefit. Like I said, the only issue is sometimes locally, turn off intrusion detection while you do your provisioning. And the other one is sometimes you've got a firewall that already has option 66 incorrectly done, And if that's the case, then you just want to go to the phone under the management auto provision and just tell it to set that to no to override it, and then hit auto provision, and it'll get rid of that there. So a great, I think a great improvement in the provisioning. It's going to continue to get better as we add network scans, especially for local phones. So if you have any questions, certainly give us at CQ a call, but look forward to having people using the new provisioning model.